So I say to you, I present to you, Cindy Miller Sheehan.
This man just said Cindy for president. Please don't do that to me. You have to really have a serious screw loose to want to be president, I think. Today also is, or would be, the 76th birthday of Shirley Miller, my mom. My mom passed away on February 10th. She had a stroke in August of 2005 when I was at Camp Casey the first time in Crawford, Texas. And that lady hung on to life with both hands because she was a fighter. But she was actually the first person in our family to speak out against the war and against George Bush. A couple days after Casey was killed on April 4th, 2004, 04, which was the 37th anniversary of Martin Luther King being assassinated, she was telling all the media that she wanted to drop a bomb on George Bush. So we were trying to keep Shirley away from the media because we didn't really think that was a great message, for one. And for another thing, we can't use their tactics to fight them. I mean, their first solution to everything is violence. And that should be the absolute resort. It should never be preemptive. It should never be aggressive. It should never be for profit. It should never be for greed or for power. It should only be to defend America or defend our land or whatever land. And you know what? Our military's never used that way. They're always abused by the people in power and by the war machine. And let me tell you, now more than ever, our country is in the stranglehold grip of the war machine. And we have to stop it now. I see so many precious babies, so many young children. And I have 3 surviving children. And I want them to have children. I want to have grandchildren. I want them to have, like Howard Zinn said, a land that solves its problems with integrity and wisdom and not violence. Yesterday, the Democrats failed us. They failed the troops, and they failed the people of Iraq. They had one chance to stop this war, and that's by holding back, that's by shutting and locking the purse strings, by taking the money away from that maniac in the White House. But you know what? From now on, from yesterday forward, it is a democratic war. They could have stopped it, and they didn't. From this day forward, every innocent Iraqi that dies, every soldier that dies, the blood is on the hands of the Democratic leadership and the Democrats who voted to continue this. It's really hard to fight the war machine. You know, Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy were assassinated because they were fighting the war machine. My son was assassinated by the war machine. It's really hard to fight it because we can't boycott Halliburton. We don't have any bridges or embassies we want built. We can't boycott Raytheon. But what we can do is, first of all, quit giving our children to them to kill. And secondly, something that I am doing, and I encourage everybody in America to do this, because if we all did it, they couldn't get all of us. When Nancy Pelosi handed George Bush $93 billion yesterday to continue the killing and to maybe invade Iran, you know, George Bush can use that money to invade Iran because the Democratic leadership took out the language that would have forced him to come back to them for approval. Well, you know what? It's not in the Constitution for Congress to hand over their power to declare war. They're the ones that have to declare war. But they handed it over to George Bush so he can invade Iran if he wants to. But when Nancy Pelosi gave him $93 billion more, I said not one penny of that is coming from Cindy Sheehan. I am not paying my taxes to the war machine. Everybody here needs to withdraw your money from the war machine. I heard there were 3 people here who were counter-protesters that were saying, we support the troops. Well, let me tell you, keeping them in Iraq is not support. The VA system is in shambles. We know there's over 100 Iraq vets that have committed suicide, and those are the only ones that we know about. We know that from Vietnam, over 100,000 Vietnam vets have committed suicide. That's not supporting the troops. You know, sending them to fight and die without body armor, that's not supporting the troops. Having them drink contaminated water, that's not supporting the troops. I've talked to Marines who had to beg for food from the people of Iraq because they weren't getting enough to eat. That's not supporting the troops. The only way we can support our troops is to get them out of there.